Hello, my name is Eric Walker-Rawson, and this is Discussing New Approaches, the thought leadership series where we delve into anything strategy, data, tech, AI, and anything in between. I'm joined by Cathy Herbert, who's an Executive Vice President of Pre-Sales Engineering and Professional Services at Arria. And today we're going to be discussing how companies are successfully leveraging generative AI within their business. So before we jump in, Cathy, did you want to run us through a bit of your background before Arria and how you joined?
Yes, my name is Cathy Herbert, and I've been in technology for over 30 years. I know it's a little embarrassing to say that. I was the 17th employee at Documentum in the really, really early days, which was enterprise content management. And originally we were sold multiple times and ended up at Dell, EMC, and then Dell. Once I was done with that, I was looking for what's the next cool thing, right? And so from storing and managing content, which was big 30 years ago, now how can we automatically generate content that businesses can use to free up individuals to do higher level tasks? So I ended up at Arria, couldn't be happier. It's a great place to be.
Amazing. So what made you want to identify that as being the next wave, sort of the new technology that you wanted to sort of signpost yourself to?
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of a math junkie, a data junkie, and I hate to write, right? And there are a lot of people out there that are like me. So when I saw the tech for the first time, I'm like, this is super cool that I can focus on what I'm good at and what I like to do, and let a technology take care of the rest. So they got me hooked pretty quickly.
Amazing. I think that's usually the good intersection of technology. It's got to have that wow factor, and you've got to be able to have some sort of automation that is worthwhile. Is that usually the response you get from clients when you show it to them?
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. We have fun with our job for sure.
Perfect. So, did you want to maybe give a little bit of an overview to Aria for anyone who hasn't come across the company before?
Yeah, Arria is a generative AI company. We build deterministic models for companies that are looking to automatically generate narratives from massive amounts of data, right? And they want to do it in a very precise way. They want to control the words. They want to do it as part of an end-to-end process. We also have BI tools, integrations to BI tools where we'll generate narratives. And we have integrations to LLMs that will give additional functionality, which I think we'll be talking about later on in the podcast. So I won't jump into that just yet.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover. I think so. I mean, we can jump off with the first question then. So, you mentioned it there. There's different approaches I think that Aria takes. So, what do you think of the differences between LLMs and something like an end-to-end data-to-text automation?
Yeah, there are two different business use cases we see. One is we're working with a company and they have structured data and they want to be able to develop a narrative. So massive amounts of data, it takes humans a long time to process, tends to be error prone, and every word matters, right? So you've got a regulatory agency that wants a guarantee that when I'm doing that investment commentary, that my customer is going to see that it's not wrong, right? So that's a great use case for the deterministic model of data to text, right? And we do that lots of different places. Generative AI using LLMs is really a fabulous tool that's very cool. And the thing about LLMs, they make humans better, but they don't replace humans. So, I really look at when I'm using an LLM, I'm sending something to a black box. I'm going to get a really cool response. Most of the time it's right, but it's not always right. Sometimes it hallucinates. So anyone working with an LLM needs to understand the subject matter well enough to know what's relevant to what they're writing and what they're not writing. So the way I would sort of look at the two different approaches is one's great for end-to-end process automation. Your regulatory offices are going to love us. The other is great to enhance my give ideas to my human writer that then they can implement in a really thoughtful way.
And what do you think what are the benefits of that end-to-end automation? Why should companies look to invest into something like this?
Yeah, we work with a company. It's a retail company with over 40,000 employees, 15 billion in revenue, and they have massive amounts of data that they generate every week. I mean, massive amounts. And they want to be able to report at the store level, at the region level, at the district level, at the executive level. And Monday morning, they want those reports to hit everybody's desk. So they're doing the right thing as far as employees and ordering and all the things they have to think about for the week. We can generate 2,000 unique reports in 9 minutes, right? That's just something that, as I go back to, how many human writers would I have to would I have to have on my team to be able to do that in a process automation way? So that's just one example of where this technology just really shines.
Amazing. And I suppose, when do you think businesses are ready for AI, and how can they successfully utilize it from what you've seen?
Yeah, there are two things that need to happen. They need to have a use case, right? What are the narratives that I want to automate, and do I have the data there to support it? So when we talk to a company, we like to understand their current process, right? What are you doing now? What does that process look like? And where is the data coming from? And then we do what's called corpus analysis and say, okay, does this data really support this narrative? And if it does, you're absolutely ready to automate it. Um, from an LLM perspective, right, which is the area that everybody's moving into and Arria is moving into as well, there are some documents where you may have a portion of the document, like an investment commentary, where you want it auto-generated, process automation, 100% accurate every time. My regulatory agent's going to be thrilled with it. Regulatory organization's going to be thrilled with it.
Mm.
But when that document's complete, the writer needs to go in and do a stock story about maybe Microsoft, right? Was my top performer. Well, why were they a top performer? Well, the information's not in the data, right? It might be out on CNBC or Reuters, or I might have write ups within my organization. I might want to need to query that, then send that information, from using RAG techniques to an LLM of the company's choice and get back writer assistance. So now they've got that guaranteed correct commentary. Then you get sort of the user will get here are the articles that are relevant. Here's information that'll help, that's summarized for you. And now you can add that human written narrative to what was auto generated. So we truly believe both of these technologies are coming together, and it's a really exciting place to be.
Amazing. I mean, obviously the automation is really exciting. Obviously, in the wider market, we see things like, LLMs and things might take jobs, and there might be sacrificed for sort of automation. I mean, you mentioned the human element was really, really important. So, do you think there is a possibility that LLMs could take over from sort of the human element, or is it very necessary within that process?
I don't think LLMs are going to take out human jobs in the near future. I think they're going to make us more efficient. I think they're going to enable us to spend time in other areas. I think they're going to make us smarter. I was talking to one of my early clients, right from an ROI perspective, and it was a finance department, which is a great use case for us. And I said, "How are you justifying the spend?" And he said, "We're bringing 5 new drugs to market with the same number of staff, and I need to be able to make my staff more efficient." So it wasn't that we were cutting down staff; it was that we're giving them time to do what they like, and we're taking some of the other tasks and we're automating them in a very responsible way.
Amazing. Is there feedback from the people who are using it, so from the staff as well, that you see?
Yeah, we see a lot of add-on business. In fact, we had a customer that we were talking to yesterday, again, a financial services company, and he said, I've got to put some work in up front to get this set up, but then it just works, right? And so where I used to say to my team, okay, on Monday of next week, I need to have all these documents complete. We can apply the data, we can push a button, and 10 minutes later, I have everything I need. So, there's not that mad rush anymore. And from an audit and compliance perspective, when you're building these models, you're testing them, you're complying to the word choices that the marketing team is requiring. You're putting in the right fonts. You're doing everything right for that company, so they can trust the output, and that's the important thing.
Amazing. So, what do they need to have in place already to be, I suppose, ready for that venture into either the data to text solution or the LLM solution? I suppose, probably from a data perspective, I'd imagine.
Yeah, data's king, right? In fact, I went to a generative AI show in New York not too long ago, and most every vendor was about how we clean the data, how we manage the data, how we. So I would say that the first thing is I always start with the end. So what are we trying to generate, and then what do we have to use to generate it, right? And so if we look at that process in some cases, you have data, it's going to generate your whole narrative. Boom, you're done. In other cases, you have data that's going to generate part of your narrative, and you don't want to have to QA it at the end. You want it to always be right. Boom, deterministic AI. And then you look at another part and you go, oh, gee, LLM would really be helpful, and a human's going to write that piece. So, it's not, I look at a document and I don't say, this is just deterministic. I might say this is just deterministic, but I might say, there's part of this that makes sense to be deterministic, and another piece that, really an LLM is going to augment and give us give our author a huge boost.
No, I completely agree. And I mean, with my role as a headhunter for the sort of leadership side of data analytics and AI, I have a lot of conversations with professionals who are having internal conversations with CEOs about LLMs. They're getting the push down. It's been the topic of conversation since 2023, really, since ChatGPT started a lot of this wave, or at least unleashed it into the hype circle, I suppose. But do you have to, in the conversations that you have with companies, are there any, I suppose, ridiculous requests, or is there a certain understanding or a lack of understanding that maybe CEOs or executives might have about the capability of what LLMs and data to text can do?
Yes, and that's actually a great question. I mean, a lot of the enterprise engagements that we had going on, sort of when LLM became the big hype, some of the work's halted, right? Because we're going to get the LLM teams, and we're going to figure this out. And we're going to generate this all through LLMs, and then all of a sudden they're realizing, oh, it hallucinates. Oh, I can't control the word. Oh, I can't do this, can't do that. And then they've kind of come back and said, okay, we're getting a better understanding of where LLMs fit in the process, and we need both. So let's talk. So, I do think that um, both technologies are valid, both provide huge gains to the business, right, from a productivity perspective. But we really need to let the use case drive which technology we're applying and how we're applying it in the end-to-end solution.
Hmm. And with those particular use cases, what do you think makes a good use case within a business? I'd imagine it's probably industry specific, but I suppose as a general rule of thumb, what should they be aiming for in terms of the right use cases to start this journey or to focus in on in terms of a large scale project?
Yeah, so from a generative AI data to text perspective, um, I would say that lots of data. We know what the output looks like. We want to be able to generate the reports on a more frequent basis than we can currently do with the humans that we have. Word choice matters, accuracy matters. All of those are the things that if that's what your problem is, then generative AI data to text is a great way to go, right? On the flip side, if I'm looking at an LLM, right, working with generative AI, um, we want to be able to have the generative AI go out and do the right math in a trusted way to tell you what you need to focus on, and then be able to go to the LLM and get additional information that's out there, maybe passing it information through RAG techniques. And the reason that they both work really well together is that I was working with a major hospital system, major hospital system, and they were looking at productivity of how long it takes to onboard people, how long does it take to get them from the front desk. There were all these timestamps that they were looking at. And I was talking to her, and they use some pretty significant math in their writing, right? So, what timestamp is going to be the best opportunity for me to trim down minutes might not be the one that's furthest from threshold across all hospitals. It might be the one that impacts the most hospitals, right? And so there are two different calculations to get those. And if you go to an LLM, it might give you one answer to say, okay, this is a timestamp that you really need to automate if you really want your business to be more efficient, but it didn't use a calculation you meant it to use, right? So, use deterministic to give you uh, exactly what you need to focus on, and then based on that you can go out and get more information from the LLM.
Amazing. And do you have to work alongside internal teams to be able to optimize and tailor this to within the business?
We do. Our goal is to work with subject matter experts, right? The best human you have in your organization, and really understand why they write the way they do, why they talk about things the way they talk about things. And the one big aha moment for me, and it was early when I started at Arria, was how much math we do in writing and really understand what that is. And a lot of times, I mean, you can do something unsophisticated and say, always give me the top two drivers and the top two offsets, right? But what if the third driver was really important to the business and you missed it? So we deploy things like standard deviation algorithms, which work much like the human brain does, which is really interesting because, sometimes it will talk about two drivers and other times it'll talk about three drivers, and it's dynamic based on what the data is telling us is important. And those are the kinds of things that we can do in a very thoughtful way.
Amazing. So with the heavily regulated industries, so looking at financial services, for example, how do you tailor solutions to fit those environments?
Yeah, we've built some starter packs, and we're actually coming out with something we call script libraries, which are kind of components that we pull together. If you need to talk about commentary, drivers, and offsets, grab that component and kind of pull things together in a modular way. So we learn from our customers, I guess, is a short answer. Right? We target the same types of high value apps, investment commentary, financial reporting, operational efficiency, and we see commonalities, right, of the types of things that people are trying to do, and then we build starter packs up to help people get there faster. Um, and we have training where we train centers of excellence within big companies. We have professional services. We provide advisory hours. Our goal is to make people as efficient as possible, as quickly as possible, and them to manage their own narratives, their own environments, and just really continue to expand on their ARIA journey.
I noticed the key word there in terms of efficiency. Is I suppose it's L ML ops. Sorry, there we go. ML ops. Does that come into the journey as well? Sort of optimization when these things are deployed and working towards things like hallucinations if they happen, working out why they happen and developing them from there.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of controlling hallucinations is the way we do our prompt engineering,
Mm.
right? And so the LLM's really great at coming back with language, um, but sometimes it gets the facts wrong, right? So if you give it the right facts and then tell it to build language around it, there's less of a chance of hallucination, right? So that's how we really optimize, is kind of pulling deterministic models along with machine learning models together and LLM models in a very controlled way, right? Because if I just got to the LLM and say, tell me why Microsoft stock went up this quarter, well, it doesn't have the data on what happened this quarter, doesn't know about it yet, right? So, but if I go and I say, from these three articles that I've handpicked, that I've, kind of said, okay, that one's interesting, that one's interesting, but I don't want to read them all. I want you to summarize it. it's really good at that. And if you tell it, stick within these three articles, it's not going to wander too far, right? So I think RAG techniques are really, really important when we look at, how we can keep hallucinations down.
Perfect. Yeah, and like you said earlier, it all comes down to the data that you use. So you need to have good data infrastructure before you go into the AI journey, I suppose. But so we talked a lot about different size of companies, but I suppose as a specific focus, what do you think is the place of AI within an enterprise business?
Um, Low hanging fruit is finance organizations, right? Because can't afford to get it wrong, and you base your business on finance. And I can't tell you the number of times that we've worked with a customer and they've come to us with, here's our narrative, here's our data, and we'll look at it and say, well, something was transposed, or why'd you pick this over that? And then they look at the data and they look at the narrative and they say, ooh, that's wrong, right? Like, I'm not sure why we wrote it that way. So that's a great app because it's so important that from a regulated perspective, my financials are always right, right? People's heads roll when they're not like that. That's a great place to start. Um, Operational reporting, that's another great place to start. Um, we've seen some HR kind of applications, really anywhere you have data driving narrative within an organization. Or, if I look at the LLM side, marketing departments benefit greatly, right? Because you have that human in the loop. And when you use LLM, you always need a human in the loop.
Definitely. So it's always trying to improve the human in the loop, like we mentioned before. But I suppose, so looking ahead a little bit, where do you think the future of text-based AI looks like?
Yeah, I think you'll see more people do automated reporting and see the value of it. So I think you'll see more data to text innovation. Um, I think you'll see companies, and we're seeing it today, invest in their own LLM and kind of work with LLMs to see how they can better support their workforces where there's a human in the loop. Because I think people know, it's just not ready to deploy without humans, but it makes humans better. So I think you'll continue to see an investment. I think we'll see use cases evolve, like stock stories that we talked about, which are going to leverage both deterministic models and LLMs together. And I also think from a chat bot capability, you'll see deterministic models as well as LLM technology being the foundation, working together, being the foundation to chatbots. So I think there's a huge future in generative AI for both approaches and both approaches together.
So you mentioned chatbots at the end there. So do you think, compared to the other examples that you gave, do you think chatbots? I think we're a couple of years away from utilizing them efficiently, or are we there now with the technology capability that we have?
I, I think being able to leverage both deterministic models and LLM technology together, we can get closer to ensuring we're getting accurate responses, right? So, are we there now? No. Are we heading there very, very quickly? And I think what you'll see is, when you look at an LLM, they're sort of built to do all and be all, right? You can ask it whatever you want, it's going to answer whatever you want. But when we get into chatbots, there might be a financial services chatbot that uses another LLM model, right, as well as data within your organization to be able to answer questions, but a set of questions that make sense, right, for that particular chatbot use case. I don't. I'm not sure that we're at a place right now where uh, you can just ask anything and expect to get high quality responses. I don't think it's there yet.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And what do you think of those sort of off-the-shelf solutions? I think that's tends to be what a lot of companies for chatbots and things are going down and trying to just introduce LLMs before maybe they're ready for public use. And we've seen some of those cases in the news, definitely. Some of the worst examples of those.
Yeah, yeah, and very frustrating for the end user, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I just want to say thank you very much, Cathy, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, and definitely go out, anyone listening, go out and check out Arria. They're doing some really amazing work within the space, and consider having a chat with them about any of sort of LLM and text-based needs.